season 89-90 had been a disaster for Colchester United. Away wins like this one at Brentford in the FA Cup were very rare. With just 2 matches left in the Football League and Colchester 5 points adrift, they had to win at Cambridge United. Pictures coming up are from Malcolm Dixon of Cambridge United FC.
Flicked on by Wilkins. Got forward for United by Kimball. Now Claridge. Ledbetter with a great ball that finds Cheetham through the legs of Radford. Cheetham just inside the box, and it's in. Michael Cheetham on 25 minutes. The through ball from towards. And a great goal from Steve Claridge. Cook, Cheetham, brought down in the box, a definite penalty. Tony English, the Colchester skipper. Hits it, and it's there. United 3, Colchester United 0. So to receive the ball from Andy Fensham as Michael Cheetham. Inside to Claridge. Taylor brought down, yes, by Scott Daniels. United's second penalty. A great turn from John Taylor. Scott Daniels given no option but to bring down John Taylor. Once again faces Marriott. Some 4 minutes after his last effort. And as with the last effort, Cheetham scores.
It meant that Colchester United would be playing in the GM Vauxhall Conference, having lost their league status they'd held for 40 years. Their first match in the conference was against Yeovil Town, showing off their brand new stadium, and they were too good for the U's that day. Final score there 2-0. The second goal was lost due to a technical fault. Another away match now at Welling United. Scott Barrett easily beaten there. The Kent side were 1-0 up at half-time, and that stayed that way until the 76th minute, when Mark Yates scored the first ever Colchester United goal in the GM Conference. And it was enough to earn the U's their first ever GM Conference point. At last a home match now, and the first visitors were Merthyr Tydfil, once a league club themselves. Mark Yates putting Colchester a goal to the good, but just a few minutes later, Terry Boyle equalised for Merthyr Tydfil. Half-time now approaching, and Colchester make one last attack in an attempt to go into at the interval a goal to the good. Well, Collins eventually finds Nicky Smith here, and his cross finds Gary Bennett. But the Merthyr keeper was in fine form there, but he was eventually beaten a third time. This shot from Eamon Collins. And then Colchester almost got a fourth goal, courtesy of an own goal from the Merthyr Tydfil defence. But in the end, the final score of 3-1, Colchester's first win in the conference. Off to Fisher Athletic now. Most people hadn't even heard of this team and had trouble finding it. Most people were wishing they hadn't bothered to go to this one. It was a dreadful match. Just this save from Scott Barrett. Back home now, Mario Walsh opens the scoring against Northwich Victoria. Just 15 minutes gone and Mark Yates now adds a second. Fine work here by Collins. Just 5 supporters there in the visiting end for this match and only 1,966 at the game. Tony English kept his cool there to get the third one. And soon Colchester were 4-0 ahead. Mario Walsh here tripped. Initially he considers taking the free kick himself, but then changes his mind, which was just as well because he was on hand to score that 4th goal. This was the only match that Colchester would play in the GM Conference to attract under 2,000 spectators at Layer Road. What a nightmare 700-mile return trip to Barrow in Cumbria now. Mario Walsh opens the scoring on 9 minutes. Well then, Colin Cowperthwaite for Barrow had other ideas. He scored twice in a 2-minute spell midway through the first half. Well, that one looked easy. This one, a little more difficult. A fine overhead kick. But with just 14 minutes to go, Mark Yates salvaged a point for the U's. So 2-2 the final score. It was the two clubs' first meeting for almost 20 years when they were both members of the 4th Division of the Football League. Well, next at Layer Road were Telford United. Something as a reputation for being giant killers, but not today. They soon fell behind to a rare goal from Scott Daniels. And from Scott Barrett's long kick, Colchester was soon 2 goals ahead. Well, Mario Walsh claiming that one. In the second half, Telford United put in a better performance and almost pulled a goal back shortly before time, but Scott Barrett was equal to it. So, a good 2-0 win there for the U's. Following Wednesday, they had a midweek fixture away to Boston United. Mario Walsh gave Colchester the lead. And then a fine solo run by Gary Bennett here earned a second goal to give Colchester a comfortable 2-0 half-time lead. Well, in the second half, Boston United fought back and deservedly scored a goal here from this corner. But Colchester wouldn't be denied and eventually scored a third goal courtesy of Mario Walsh. So a good 3-1 away win there. Cheltenham Town arrived at Layer Road. They had the cheek to go 1-0 ahead earlier on. Well, that must be said, it was a good goal from Buckland here. Well, then Hughes earned a penalty. Well, up stepped Ian Atkins, the new player manager. Well, the former Everton favourite didn't mess about there, straight in the back of the net. Well, Colchester piled on the pressure, but couldn't add to their one goal in the first half. But eventually the Hughes did go 2-1 ahead, and Gary Bennett scored. Well, there was time for just one more goal from Mario Walsh, deep into injury time this one, but it secured the 3 points. Well, next it was an away trip to Runcorn. This looked a difficult one on paper, but Ian Atkins' deflected shot here put Colchester 1-0 up. And then Neale Marmon added a second soon afterwards from this corner. Slight knock on the head there for Neale. One of the few players that had been retained from the Football League team of the previous season. Well, Mark Yates' miss kick here nearly produced a third. Deep into injury time now, and Colchester United earned a third goal via this somewhat strange penalty decision. Runcorn players a little bit bemused by that. Ian Atkins, he proved one thing, he could certainly hammer home penalties. Not such a good day the following Saturday, away to Macclesfield Town. Rain and umbrellas and miserable weather and a defeat. The only goal of the game there, scored with just 10 minutes to go. As the match continued, the rain got worse and worse. But Colchester's best chance came here. Intelligent play from Collins. But no goal. Now keep your eye on the Sutton United goalkeeper here, Nicky Sullivan. He lasts 12 seconds on the pitch, which must surely be some sort of record for the shortest time a goalkeeper's ever appeared on the pitch. Here he goes. Well, some rib damage there put an end to Nicky Sullivan's activities for the day, and it fell on Tony Raines, the fullback for Sutton United, to take over in goal. And he played a hero's part, just conceding one goal, and that from a defensive error. There's the error, and there's Gary Bennett. Hughes fans would be expecting a glut of goals, but that was all there was. Tony Raines played his heart out, save after save. How about this one? He played so well that Sutton United telephoned us for a copy of the video to present to him because he'd played so well. Off to Twerton Park, Bath City now. 1 minute gone, and another penalty for the Hughes. Another thumper here from Ian Atkins. But Ian Atkins from deep in his own half there, setting up the second one eventually for Mark Yates. Bath City keeper there hesitating to his cost. Well, Colchester decided to sit on that 2-goal lead and soak up the Bath City pressure. And they were confined to just 1 goal, not enough to earn a point. A good win there for the U's, but it put Bath City deep in trouble at the foot of the table. At the top of the table were Kettering Town. They'd played 15 matches and had won 12 and drawn 3. No defeats there. Second place were Barnet, 6 points behind, and then Colchester United, another 6 points behind, but with 1 game in hand on Kettering Town. Surprisingly, it was Welling United on 4th and Altrincham 5th. Fisher Athletic and Gateshead were just on 10 points, and Bath City there propping up the table with 9. On to Barrow now, and the only goal of the game here from Mario Walsh. Barrow played well enough, and spare a thought for them. They'd travelled 700 miles return for this fixture and could have easily equalised. How about this shot? The thump of the ball hitting the post was heard all round the ground there, but it was Colchester who earned the 3 points. Stafford Rangers were next to the Layer Road. They had Stan Collymore, no less, in their lineup. First goal there for Mario Walsh. Took a knock for his troubles. Tony English took more care with this one. (2-0). Away to Kettering Town now for what was the match of the season. A great save there from Scott Barrett, but for nothing, because from the corner, Robbie Cook scored a beauty. Over 5,000 in the Rockingham Road ground. Colchester United now, attack after attack. In the second half now, and Colchester United still could not find that breakthrough. A good save here from the Kettering Town keeper, denying Gary Bennett there. Well, from this corner, Kettering Town's defence for once was all at sea, but the U's just couldn't capitalise on it. Well, perhaps Mario Walsh had the best chance of all. His shot unluckily bounces off the crossbar. With Colchester United pushing more and more men forward, inevitably Kettering Town would catch them on the break. They should have made it 2-0 here. Kettering Town had been beaten 5-1 the previous week by Wycombe Wanderers, but this was 3 valuable points for them. And talking of Wycombe Wanderers, here they were at Layer Road. That strange clearance there from Tony English only delayed the first Wycombe Wanderers goal from West. Colchester looked a better bet in the second half. Their patience was rewarded when they finally equalised. That goal from Mark Yates, but soon West was in action again and he'd made it 2-1 for Wycombe Wanderers. Neale Marmon there trying to stave off the attacker. But Colchester clawed their way back to a point. Bit of a mix-up here in the Wycombe defence. A 2-2 draw there, courtesy of Mario Walsh. Away to Stafford Rangers, who still had Stan Collymore. That goal from Neale Marmon on 7 minutes, and just 1 minute later, Roy McDonough scores his first goal since rejoining the U's. Later on in the match, he'd be sent off. Not a day to remember, the trip to Pennydarren Park, home of Merthyr Tydfil. Phil Green, the scorer, he'd go on to score a hat-trick in this game. From this corner, here comes number 2. Colchester United, it must be said, did have an off day here. This was about their best chance. And this was to be the first of 3 nightmare trips to Merthyr Tydfil. Poor defending there, and the third goal coming up. Away to Cheltenham Town now. It was the home side who went ahead on 3 minutes. Hughes equalised here. Tony English. Some intelligent run down on the wing. And some determined play, making it 1-1. And it was Tony English again. Eamon Collins here on the wing. Tony English intelligently runs through and should have scored. Mario Walsh made sure. In the second half, Cheltenham Town came out determined to find an equaliser, but they couldn't find a way through the Colchester United defence. And it was Gary Bennett who should have made it 3-1 here. A bad miss, but the points were safe. The Boxing Day clash now with Barnet, one of the main contenders for the title. And what about this for recovery from Neale Marmon? From that corner, Mario Walsh unlucky. This time it's a fine save from Phillips in the Barnet goal, denying the use. Final score then 0-0. They'd meet again on New Year's Day at Barnet. Before then though, there was Boston United to take care of. Neale Marmon in the thick of things there. Well, 39 minutes gone, and Colchester scored the first goal. Collins' shot there going in off the post, and Tony English's second one going in off the other post. So a similar situation to the match at York Street earlier in the season. 2-0 up at half time, and then Boston fought back for 2-1. Beach the scorer. And just as though it was a rerun from the match earlier in the season, Colchester eventually scored a third goal. From Mario Walsh. Well, conditions started off reasonably at Barnet. They got progressively worse. And it was Mario Walsh's 9th minute strike that put the U's ahead. From this corner, Ian Atkins should have made it 2, but a superb save from Phillips denied him. Second half now, and conditions deteriorating rapidly. But on 49 minutes, it was Colchester United who got the second goal. Driving rain and a howling wind made it impossible at times to film the match, and our cameraman, who was perched on the roof behind the goal, had a hard time of it. Barnet got back into the game at this point for a penalty, not there for a push or there for a trip, but there. Just 9 minutes to go now. The game perfectly balanced, and it was Mike Masters, the American, who made it 3-1. The weather had taken its toll on the Layer Road pitch as well. Slough Town were next to visit the ground, and they soon fell behind. Gary Bennett's shot here off the post. It wasn't long before Mario Walsh added his name to the score sheet. But then Slough Town had other ideas. On the half-time whistle, Neale pulled a goal back for the visitors. Well, that save from Scott Barrett there, saving 2 valuable points. And at the league table on the 5th of January 1991 looked like this. Kettering Town a commanding 10-point lead, but Colchester United were now in 2nd place. 3rd were Barnet, 4th was Altrincham, and Wycombe Wanderers were in 5th place. A position for the rest of the season they couldn't better. At the wrong end of the table, it was Fisher propping up the league with 17 points, and then Stafford Rangers, Stan Collymore and all, and Bath City. With the away match at Altrincham didn't go as planned. Good save coming up from Barrett. But shortly after that, the U's went a goal down. Difficult team to play against for Altrincham. Scott Barrett unhappy about something there, but the goal was given. A little unfortunate he was with this second goal. It took a wicked deflection off of Neale Marmon. Ian Atkins remonstrating with some of his fellow defenders. Scott Barrett saved the day here with this save. At 3-0, the U's would have almost certainly been beaten. But here comes Tony English. Rare substitute jersey for Tony English, back after injury. And now with just 1 minute on the clock, Roy McDonough salvages a valuable point for the U's. Some intelligent play from the bench here. Good pass back, saving valuable seconds. And it must be said, an unlikely draw there for the U's. Up until then, they'd looked like they'd be coming back from Altrincham pointless. Off to Gander Green Lane Sutton next. 9 minutes gone, and Roy McDonough claims the only goal of the match. Nicky Sullivan there in the Sutton goal. He lasted the whole match for this one. And Lady Luck's on his side on more than one occasion. How about this from a shot from Collins? And then Scott Barrett's long clearance upfield finds Gary Bennett, but the Sutton keeper's luck comes out. In the second half, it was Colchester's turn to enjoy some good fortune. This thumping shot coming up here from Sutton left Scott Barrett standing. But the score stayed 1-0 for the U's, and 3 more points were in the bag. Bath City were the next visitors to Layer Road, and they went 1 down to a goal from Ian Atkins. Good pass there from Eamon Collins. 1-0. Good advantage there played by the referee, but the Bath City keeper makes a good save. Now it's Nicky Smith on the attack. How did that one stay out? Well, Bath City were proving to be more of a handful than what was first thought, but eventually a second goal goes in. And it's another goal for Mario Walsh. That defeat once again put Bath City at the bottom of the table. There they are on 21 points, level with Fisher Athletic, and 3 points above them at Cheltenham Town. But at the right end of the table, it's no longer Kettering Town at the top. They've been deposed by Barnet, who have been playing their games in hand, and we're now level on points with Kettering Town, who had at one time seemed invincible. Altrincham are also looking dangerous on third place, and Colchester United are on fourth. Wickham there in their favourite fifth spot. Well, perhaps a few more floodlights may have been handy at Slough Town. Gary Bennett's shot here hitting the bar. Not only floodlights, perhaps a decent pitch. Probably the worst pitch in the GM Conference, this one. "23 minutes gone, and Roy McDonough gives Hughes the lead, and in the second half he made the point safe with the second goal. It was a ground that Roy McDonough enjoyed playing at. The following season he'd hit 4 more there. Well, Macclesfield Town, they were a tough team to beat. That was alleged to be handball. It gave the U's a rare opportunity to beat Farrelly in the Macclesfield goal. But another thumping Ian Atkins penalty made the point safe for Colchester. Runcorn were next to visit Layer Road. And towards the end of the first half, they took a 1-goal lead. Bad back pass there from Neale Marmon. But in the second half, Colchester United got back to winning ways. That looked offside from Laurie Ryan. Then Colchester United had the Runcorn defence all over the place here. And then it was Runcorn's turn for a bad back pass. Gary Bennett scores. But Runcorn came for a point, and they went away as party spoilers by earning that point. A good shot, it must be said, but 2 vital points lost. Fisher Athletic were next at Layer Road, and they nearly scored. That shot cannoning off the crossbar, much to the relief of Scott Barrett. Colchester finally went 1-0 ahead when Roy McDonough's header found the net. Well, in the visiting end, there was just one spectator, and he was an Arsenal supporter on his way to a Norwich City Arsenal match and heard on the radio that it was all ticket. The song "You'll Never Walk Alone" really did not apply to Fisher Athletic. And when they did score, the only person heard cheering them was the Fisher Athletic manager. See if you can hear him. Fisher began to frustrate the U's, and it looked like it would be a draw. And then in stepped Mario Walsh. Well, after that, Fisher, who included Paul Roberts in defence, who would play for the U's the following season, then gave up the ghost and should have conceded more goals. Final score there, an unconvincing 2-1 victory for the U's, but no such luck at Adams Park, as Wycombe Wanderers score the only goal of the match. Colchester's best chance here, long punt upfield from Scott Barrett. Collins there with the throw. And Colchester's shot is cleared off the line. Tony English's hands in the air there. He's convinced it's a goal, but the referee thought otherwise. Back at Layer Road now. Nicky Smith throwing. Finds Mario Walsh. To Neale Marmon. And all this pussyfooting almost costs a goal. And there's a furious Ian Atkins barking at Neale Marmon. Yeovil Town could hope at best for a mid-table position. They were no more than a mediocre side, but that deflection and this deflection gave Yeovil Town a shock 1-0 win at Layer Road. If any match could be pinpointed to costing the U's the championship, it was probably that one. Off to the International Stadium now in Gateshead. Rows and rows of empty seats to see the U's go 1-up. New boy and former Tottenham Hotspur favourite David Leeworthy, the scorer. Well, Gateshead, to their credit, fought back well and eventually equalised on 39 minutes. Rannigan, the scorer. There are spectators in the ground, it's just that you can't see them. They're all to the left of the camera position in a rather magnificent cantilever stand. Colchester United won all 3 points, courtesy of McDonough. We're staying up north, this time at Northwich Victoria, said to be the oldest ground in the world, and looking at it, who could argue with that? Mario Walsh puts the U's 1 ahead. Rudy Hedman there on loan, former U's favourite from the Football League days. A sloppy goal here from Northwich Victoria. Through the legs of Scott Barrett. Really should have saved this one, and it was right on half time too. Well, a long searching ball there from Gary Osborne on loan from Telford United finds Rudy Hedman. A long build up to this goal. But eventually it's Roy McDonough who finds the net with a header. With 89 minutes gone, that should have been enough, but now Sean Elliott, in a moment of madness, trips a Northwich attacker. Penalty. Tony English there chatting with the referee, but in all fairness, the referee had no choice but to give a penalty, and also a ticket there for Sean Elliott as well. Two wasted points. Welling United now at Layer Road. Well, that was adjudged to have been a penalty. The Welling United supporters in the visiting enclosure there not happy with that one. Another unstoppable Ian Atkins penalty. Second half now. From this free kick, it's Tony English who gives the U's a 2-0 lead. But then Welling United got a penalty of their own. A needless challenge by Rudy Headman. Maybe the Welling United player makes a meal of it. (2-1) the final score. Home to Kettering Town now. Watch out for this Phil Brown corker. An outrageous shot, well worth a look from behind the goal. Extraordinary shot. It was left to Gary Bennett to equalise. His goal was a good one, but compared to that Phil Brown goal, not quite so spectacular. Well, the goal had silenced the masses of Kettering Town supporters that had taken over the Layer Road end. Kettering Town should have gone 2-1 ahead there, and just a few moments later they go 2-1 down. Was it a cross? Was it a shot? It was a goal. Looking at it from this angle, it looks as though Tony English meant to cross the ball, but I'm sure he'll tell you different. Well, another costly miss for Kettering Town. Had that goal got in, it would have been 2-2. But from Scott Barrett's long clearance, he eventually finds Warren Donald. 3-1. Great performance against probably the most entertaining side in the conference, Kettering Town. $7,000 in Layer Road for this one, and that David Leeworthy goal on 6 minutes had put the U's one ahead against Altrincham, who are now looking the more likely winners of the conference. That goal made it 1-1, and there was no further scoring. In all fairness, Colchester should have won the match. And David Leeworthy here made the miss of the match. So a 1-1 draw, and probably Altrincham the more happy with that scoreline. Despite that, Colchester United had made a brief visit to the #1 slot. Just 4 games to go, they had 78 points, but the danger team were Altrincham, just 1 point behind and 2 priceless games in hand. Kettering Town were now out of it, really. They'd played 39 games and were 2 points adrift as well. Their invincible position now lost. And there was Wycombe Wanderers in their favourite 5th spot. Sutton United had now been sucked into the relegation zone, along with Bath City and Fisher Athletic looking doomed. Pictures here from Kidderminster Harriers FC.
There is beaten as well. That's a dangerous situation. Terrific shot from Gary Bennett there. The line for goal to forcing Jones to palm it over the bar. So.
Well, if that shot from Laurie Ryan had gone in instead of hitting the post, it would have given the U's a 1-goal lead with about 18 minutes left on the clock. Still, Colchester look for the winner. But with just a few minutes left, the unthinkable happened as Telford United took the lead. Neil Marmon and Warren Donald there appealing for offside in vain, but it's 1-0 to Telford. My, wasn't that an insolent little jig there from that Telford United player? But he had reason to celebrate, I suppose, because Telford then went 2-0 up. And with Barnet winning at Wycombe and beating Sutton United at home, Barnet were now looking the more likely side to win the conference. Well, Gary Bennett gave the U's the lead against Gateshead. Colchester United then got a second goal. Good work there from Gary Bennett. David Leeworthy signalling on the far side of the pitch. 2-0. How did that one stay out? More to the point, how did this one stay out? Gateshead eventually conceded a third goal. And it's David Leeworthy again. So, final score then, 3-0 to the U's, leaving just one match left in the fixture list at home to Kidderminster Harriers. And if Colchester could win this one and Barnet lose at Fisher, the GM Conference title would come to Lower Road. Laurie Ryan here gets the first goal. Rare first team outing for him. The news filtering through that Fisher Athletic are beating Barnet by 1-0. And this encouraged the U's to get a second goal, and it was again Laurie Ryan the scorer. Second half now, and although Barnet had equalised, Fisher Athletic had gone 2-1 ahead. But eventually, Barnet scored 3 more goals and Fisher had their goalkeeper sent off and they conceded a penalty. And Barnet would be the champions for the GM Conference in 1990 to 91. Ian Atkins seen walking off the lower road pitch. He wouldn't play again as he would leave in the summer to go back to the Midlands. He done. And so it would be Barnet promoted to the Football League. There they are in pole position, 2 points ahead of the U's. In third place was Altrincham. They'd blown out badly, losing at Barrow among other places. And although they looked favourites with just 3 games to go, they were well out of it, as were Kettering Town. But they had beaten Sutton United, Kettering, and sent Sutton United to the Diodora League. There was Wickham in their favourite 5th spot. Down goes Sutton and Fisher, and up came Redbridge Forest, Farnborough Town and Whitton Albion. And now it's time to look at the FA Trophy season 1990 to 91. The first round is away at an unlikely setting of Windsor and Eton on a freezing cold night. Well, that goal from Gary Bennett nearly catching out the cameraman there, blue with cold no doubt. Windsor's best attempt. And that would have been an own goal. On to round 2 now, home to Runcorn. Not the friendliest of teams with Runcorn. And they soon fell behind on 6 minutes here. This Collins free kick. And Mario's in. That's the way it stayed until Scott Barrett's long clearance here eventually leads to a free kick after a dreadful challenge by one of the Runcorn players. Probably a red card today, but not even a talking to from the referee here. Runcorn player protesting his innocence. I don't think so somehow. It's definitely a red card offence today. However, Colchester United meted out their own form of punishment, a second goal. The unmistakable head of Neale Marmon there securing that victory. And now a third round dream tie at home to local rivals Wivenhoe Town. It was Roy McDonough who put the U's on the way to the quarter-finals. But Wivenhoe Town played well enough, and how about this for a save? And the Dragons grew in confidence as they went forward for an equaliser, and luckily they were denied here. In the second half though, it was a different story, and 2 goals from Gary Bennett gave Colchester United a convincing 3-0 win. Wivenhoe keeper unfortunate here, going between his legs for the 3rd goal. And a copy of that match went out to the Colchester Garrison serving in Kuwait during the Gulf conflict. Looking at the clock there, very little time left in the quarter-final. It's 0-0. The visitors are runaway leaders of the HFS Loans League, Whitton Albion. A replay at this stage looking inevitable. But Carl Thomas had other ideas. With time running out, it was Whitton Albion who secured the match and a place in the semi-finals with the second goal coming up now. So, a shock home defeat for Colchester United. A dejected Scott Barrett there. But Colchester would meet Witton Albion the following season in the same tournament in much more lavish surroundings. There's the record. Windsor and Eton were overcome, as were Runcorn and Wivenhoe. But Witton Albion proved a handful and knocked the U's out of the tournament. So that was 1990 to 91. Here comes season 91-92. Plenty of goals, so sit back and enjoy it. Here's the opening match. Home to Macclesfield Town, and Roy McDonough beating the offside trap there. Gary Bennett enjoying the first goal of the new season. And then it was Steve McGavin, now installed as a regular in the team. Again beating the offside trap, and it's 2-0. So a good start against a very difficult side, Macclesfield Town. And it was now time for that 700-mile return trip to Barrow in Cumbria. Here's Kinsella's first goal. But Barrow equalised in the second half. That man Cowperthwaite again. Colchester United squandered several chances to win the match. And Roy McDonough, the new player manager, had possibly the best chance of all. Away to Slough Town now, and Roy McDonough made up for that miss with a 4-goal super show. But not before Slough Town had had their moments. From one down, they soon were 2-1 ahead. An unhappy Roy McDonough looking down there in disgust at that equaliser. And here's the second. It would be a half to remember. Just 13 minutes gone there, and 2-1 to Slough. Now it's 2-2. Well, and from this throw-in, it's Steve McGavin, the unlucky player, who hits the crossbar. But Roy McDonough's onto it in a flash, and it's now 3-2 for the U's. Steve McGavin here in action by the corner post. Good work from him, across, and it's a fourth. Well, Big Roy taking a knock there for his troubles, as does Sean Elliott. A crafty smack in the face there as he falls to the floor. And that gentleman there knows what's coming. It's a red card, and Slough Town will soon be down to 10 men. So 6 goals and a sending off, and the game not even at half time. 4 goals for Roy McDonough. No Colchester United player had ever scored 5 in a first team match. He had the whole of the second half to do it, but just a lick of paint robbed him from that success. So close. But if you scored 4 there, they went one better against Bath City, with Gary Bennett and Steve McGavin turning on a 5-goal showing. The offside trap cracked there. McGavin 1-0. Nicky Smith there beating the Bath City defence. A neat back pull to McDonough to give McGavin and Bennett. Now from this free kick, the U's make it 3-0. Another goal for Gary Bennett here. And in the second half, Colchester United continued where they'd left off in the first. An excellent goal here from Steve McGavin. And there was time for just that one more. 88 minutes gone, and Gary Bennett gets a hat-trick. Well, a showdown now at Witton Albion, the team that had knocked the U's out of the FA Trophy. And they go one ahead here. It was that man Carl Thomas again. But Colchester was soon level thanks to Eamon Collins scoring from this throw-in. Well, he enjoyed that one. Second half now, and Roy McDonough puts the U's 2-1 ahead shortly after the start of the second half. But with 20 minutes to go, Witton Albion make it all square. Next at Layer Road were Farnborough Town, fresh from the Beta League, and Broome soon put the visitors 1-0 ahead. But from this corner, Steve McGavin equalises. But close to half-time, Simon Reed puts Farnborough Town back in front. And this clumsy challenge in the second half from Martin Granger earned Farnborough Town a penalty. The opportunity to go 3-1 ahead for Farnborough was wasted with this poor shot. But they did find the net on the third occasion. Sean Elliott carelessly slips here, lets in Simon Reed again. Farnborough Town had won their first 3 away matches in the conference and looked like making it 4. But the U's are unlucky with this free kick which hits the crossbar. Bit of a problem there with the Farnborough Town wall. Well, when Colchester finally did score a second goal, it proved to be too late. Just 3 minutes left. Well, next at Lower Road were Yeovil Town for a rare Friday night fixture, and it was time to pay them back for last season's defeat. Tony English putting the U's 1-0 ahead. In the second half, more goals came. This one from Gary Bennett. Boss Roy McDonough having a little problem there. Hughes safely in the driving seat now with that third goal from Steve McGavin, and there was just one more to come. And so Gary Bennett enjoying his second goal of the evening, and a good 4-0 win over Yeovil Town. Well, away to Cheltenham Town again. They've got a new stand on the far side there, looks rather smart, doesn't it? Roy McDonough gave the U's the lead. An excellent shot this. But Cheltenham will not be denied and forced an equaliser just before half-time. Final score there. A little disappointing, the 1-1 draw, really. Perhaps the U's had their mind on the following match, a vital one at Wycombe Wanderers. No goals in the first half, but Colchester came closest with this shot that hits the woodwork. In the second half, though, Hughes broke the deadlock with Nicky Smith. Smith delighted with that one, although later on he would become a Wycombe Wanderers player himself. That goal in the 49th minute, and 8 minutes later, it's all square. Just 1 minute left on the clock now, and Scott Barrett with a hopeful kick upfield. The rest is history. Scott Barrett, the Colchester United hero. An unlikely goal, it turned out to be priceless.
Away thinking that, well, a point will suffice. But the way the game had gone, a hurricane breeze blowing, howling conditions, we played against the breeze second half. We've got an equalising goal, 1 goal each, and I think they had settled. 5 minutes to go, despite the fact they're playing with a strong breeze. They've twice got the ball, picked it up and knocked it back to their goalkeeper. He has just punted the ball the length of the field, and I found that I couldn't believe Paul Hyde's positioning. It bounced one bounce and then over the net. Something that I thought that I could see on a Sunday afternoon. Something that I saw Pat Jennings score against Alex Stepney way back, I think 1967. I really never thought it would happen in my time again, and it did.
Scott, can you tell me about that great day at Wycombe when you scored that great goal? What was your views on it?
Well, a long time ago now, Alex, but memories of the game. It had been quite a good game. Both teams playing attacking football. 1-1. Last minute of the game. It was just like a normal game, just finishing off the last minute, content with the draw, and away point was good for us at that stage. Gave it a big boot, and as we know, it skidded on the surface and straight in the back of the net. And the way things have turned out, it was a very important thing.
Yes, very, very.
So, the league table looked like this. Wycombe Wanderers still top, despite that shock home defeat for them. In second place, surprisingly, Telford United, and then Farnborough Town, Colchester United in fourth, and Macclesfield in fifth. At the bottom it's Stafford Rangers, Redbridge Forest, who had an appalling start, and Gateshead with just 2 points. Altrincham are the visitors now, and they go behind thanks to an own goal. But Altrincham hit back and Ken McKenna equalised. Scott Barrett pointing to the linesman there, he thought it was offside, but the goal was given. Fortunately, the U's were back in front again before half time. Steve McGavin firing home that goal, but on 50 minutes it's Rowlands who equalises for Altrincham. Nicky Smith was the unlucky player here with this lob coming up. Intelligent play by Smith. But then Colchester earn a penalty and a golden opportunity to go 3-2 ahead. Well, that gentleman's not very happy with it. The decision was for handball, and Roy McDonough here gratefully accepts the opportunity. It's 3-2 to the U's. But just a few minutes later at the other end, Roy McDonough is the culprit as he gives away a penalty. Brady the scorer, Scott Barrett a little unfortunate. The next at Layer Road were Runkle, not the friendliest of clubs by any means. 0-0 at half-time, and the deadlock's broken just after the interval. Gary Bennett the scorer, but Runcorn equalised. They claimed it was Redmond, but it looks like a Nicky Smith own goal. So 1-1, just 4 minutes to go. Runcorn's spoiling tactics at this point had appeared to pay off, and they look like repeating last season's performance by earning a draw. But that was adjudged a penalty. Runcorn goalkeeper gets so involved with his argument, he gets ordered back by a police officer. No doubt the policeman was as fed up as everybody else was with Runcorn spoiling tactics, and the penalty was seen as just punishment. Away to Telford United now. They'd beaten the U's the previous season, but on this occasion they were soon overcome. That goal from Roy McDonough followed up by a trip there on Steve McGavin. A penalty for the U's, and Roy McDonough makes it 2. And here comes the third. That one from Nicky Smith. The second half was a bit of a quiet affair. No further goals, but 3 goals and 3 points for the U's. Off to Yeovil Town now for another midweek match. U's unlucky here with this shot that hits the crossbar. Steve McGavin denied there, but he did finally score, although it wasn't until 2 minutes from the end of time. And then Colchester United made it 6 points out of 6 against Yeovil Town. Playing Stafford Rangers now. A dreary affair, this one, really. 2 goals settled it. Paul Roberts' free kick leads to the second goal. Back to Paul Roberts. He finds Steve McGavin, shakes off his man and crosses for Roy McDonough to head home. So final score, a 2-0 win for the U's. Not a classic that one, but still 3 more points. Off to Farnborough Town now, and another vital top of the table clash. All the action from the second half. Sean Elliott thought he'd got a goal there. But Colchester broke the deadlock when Gary Bennett fired the U's into the lead. Sean Elliott in the thick of things here again. He hits a post on this occasion. With Sean Elliott not known for his goal scoring skills, does eventually score 2-0. Farnborough Town's dismal home performances continued here, and they could have conceded further goals. This Eamon Collins shot just over the top. Next at Lower Road, Welling United, and they fall behind to a goal from Gary Bennett. Well, some heroics from the Welling United keeper there, and some congratulations for him from Roy McDonough. Another corner, and from this corner, watch out for an unbelievable shot from Jason Cook. Don't blink or you'll miss it. And that one even had the Welling United supporters applauding. Excellent goal, but a bit of careless defending here. And it's 2-1. After that, the match hung in the balance for a while until Tony English made it 3. Off to Northwich Victoria now, an appalling pitch and a dreary afternoon. Matters are made worse when the home side earn a penalty. Warren Donald there, adjudged to have handballed. Second half now, and one-way traffic. Northwich Victoria seemed happy to sit on that 1-goal advantage, and they nearly paid the price here. With 15 minutes to go, it was Roy McDonough who salvaged the point for the U's. And staying up north for a midweek fixture with Stafford Rangers now. Gary Bennett gives the U's a 1-0 half-time lead. 38 minutes gone. In the second half here, Gary Bennett unlucky again with a shot that hits the crossbar. At that stage, 2-0 down, Stafford Rangers would have probably thrown in the towel, but they were inspired and Wolverhampton equalised. Steve McGavin put the U's back in front here. Stafford Rangers thought it was offside. But they equalised a second time. A clumsy challenge from Roy McDonough, costing a penalty. Referee demonstrating there why he gave the penalty. A nice little jig. Simpson makes it 2-2. But Gary Bennett soon restores the U's lead. Just 9 minutes remaining, but 3 minutes later, Bradshaw makes it 3-3. The previous 3 meetings between Stafford Rangers and Colchester United had been dreary affairs, but not that one. It was a shame only 961 people had turned up for it, but over 5,000 turned up for this one, the meeting of Colchester United and Wycombe Wanderers. Gary Bennett opens the scoring, a dreadful mistake by Hyde in goal. Well, more defensive errors here, and Hyde all over the place. In fact, Paul Hyde had something of a stinker. He was no more than a spectator for this second goal, scored by Steve McGavin. Well, Paul Hyde did make a good save here from Steve McGavin. But from the clearance and the resulting throw-in, Steve McGavin makes it 3. A priceless win against the U's main contenders. Well, rows and rows of empty seats meant one thing. It was time to go to Gateshead again. Gary Bennett giving the U's the lead. And soon a second goal was on its way, courtesy of Roy McDonough. Gateshead, to their credit, made a match of it though, and were unlucky on this occasion with their shot hitting the post. In the second half now, and something of a 1966 World Cup goal, this one. Sean Elliott thinks it's a goal, referee doesn't, and the score stays at 2-0. There goes Sean, racing over to the linesman. The game had an early kick-off because the floodlights at the ground had been removed. Scott Barrett in good form there. Time for one last shot from Roy McDonough. Off the bar and over. So a good 2-0 away win there. Time for Whitton Albion now, and Steve McGavin fires the U's in front. And just 7 minutes gone. It becomes 2-0. Gary Bennett the scorer this time. That man Carl Thomas was at it again. He scores from this impossible angle. And Mr. Thomas was really becoming a thorn in Colchester's side here. Another goal from him, and it's 2-2. But unlike the previous season, where Whitton Albion had beaten the U's at Lower Road, not on this time. Eamon Collins should have done better here with his shot. And so with just 10 minutes left, it was left to Tony English to claim the winning goal. Revenge at last against Whitton Albion. What a bloodthirsty match here at Redbridge Forest. It's Roy McDonough who gives Colchester a good start with a 3rd minute goal. But Redbridge Forest fought back and Pamphlet equalised. Six times the average gate was at this match, thanks to 2,000 travelling supporters from Colchester. And there was no love lost here between Sean Elliott and Redbridge player Mario Walsh. Mario Walsh was the subject of much abuse from the Colchester United supporters. The former U's favourite had turned villain. That particular incident earned Mario a yellow card, but he had the last laugh. Time running out now, the score 1-1. He pops up from nowhere to claim the winner. Off now to take a bow from the Colchester United supporters, and a rare defeat for the U's. It wasn't planned that way, but Runcorn took the lead early on with the match at Canal Street, and they should have made it 2 here. Very unfortunate, hitting the post. And that piece of misfortune was doubly expensive because just 60 seconds later, Gary Bennett equalises for the U's. Then Jason Cook tried his luck with his superb shot that hits the crossbar. But he had better luck in the second half, and he put the U's 2-1 in front. Oops, behind you. And as time was running out, Colchester claimed the 3rd goal, Steve McGavin. Good individual work here. A measly 883, that one. As you can see by the clock there, deep into injury time. Well, now the league table was looking a little healthier. Colchester United on top, but Wycombe Wanderers looking dangerous with 3 games in hand and 7 points adrift. Farnborough Town were beginning to lose their way a bit, but surprisingly Redbridge Forest had moved into 4th spot. Kettering Town, thought by some to be favourites for the title, were a disappointing 5th. And at the wrong end it was Stafford Rangers, Runcorn after that defeat, and Yeovil Town on just 17 points. New Year's Day now, and at Redbridge Forest with Mario Walsh are the visitors, and Mario comes close to scoring here. The match turns out to be another bloodthirsty affair, one challenge after another. And from this quickly taken free kick, McGavin scores the only goal. There were opportunities for Colchester to increase their lead, but the Redbridge Forest keeper was in good form. And he saves an almost certain goal here from this corner. And so final score 1-0 to Colchester, a good win in front of a good crowd. But then it was off to Merthyr Tydfil and another defeat. Well, we suffered a power failure in the second half and had to rely on BBC Wales to supply this second goal. A special thank you there to Bob Humphreys at BBC Wales in Cardiff. Well, after that defeat, it was back home to face Cheltenham Town. They'd put up a good fight in the first half, 0-0 half-time, but then Steve McGavin pounced. Another goal here, this time it's Roy McDonough. That goal was scored just 9 minutes from time, but there was still time for 2 more goals. This one, Steve McGavin's second of the match. And then Mark Kinsella in the last minute wrapped things up. A good 4-0 victory for Colchester United. Off to Kettering Town now. Rockingham Road, not the easiest place to get a result, but you started very well. Soon went into a 2-goal lead after just 12 minutes. McGavin getting the first from a bad back pass. And then from this throw-in, Nicky Smith pounces to make it 2-0. Kettering soon fought back and they came up with another one of those superb goals that they always seem to hit the U's with. Scott Barrett there, not a lot of chance with that one, but U's are unlucky here. Paul Roberts adjudged to handle the ball inside the box there. Harsh decision, but a penalty. So on a cold night, Kettering claw their way back to 2-2. After that, it was all Colchester United, but they couldn't capitalise on their advantage. Well, perhaps the best chance of the evening fell to Steve McGavin. He did the hard work from this throw-in, outsmarting the Kettering defence, but shooting wide. Just the same, a good 2-2 draw at Rockingham Road. On to Kidderminster Harriers and a bit of controversy with this first goal. Plenty of arguing there with the referee and linesman. Paul Roberts getting involved and Eamon Collins, Scott Barrett too. Tony English and Roy McDonough now controlling Eamon Collins at least. Not once but twice. He comes back for more, there you go. Off you go, Eamon. It's just as well that Eamon Collins didn't continue to argue, because in the second half he became the youth saviour, but we'll see that in just a moment. Well, it stood as a goal, 1-0 to Kidderminster. And they soon come up with a second goal, but no dispute in this one. It was a great shot. So 2-0 at half-time to Kidderminster Harriers. This is where Eamon Collins does his life-saving job. Off the line. Just as well he wasn't sent off. And from that moment on, Colchester had a change of fortune when Gary Bennett scored on the hour. Simplest of chances for Gary Bennett, but watch out for this Nicky Smith free kick. And from looking a mess in the first half, Colchester United really turned on the pressure in the second and should have scored more. Still, on the face of it, 2-2, not a bad result after a poor first half showing. Home to Boston United now. Almost an own goal for starters there. It's Steve McGavin who scores the only goal of the match in the second half. Well, there had been some niggly fouls going on between Nuttall of Boston and Paul Roberts of Colchester United. There's another challenge. Well, it earned Paul Roberts a yellow card. Again, perhaps today that may have been a red one, but in 1992 that was seen to be a yellow card. But now Nuttall of Boston, he gets the shock of his life for play acting. He gets a red card and off he goes. Well, no further goals, but the Boston United keeper was kept pretty busy for the rest of the evening. The final score, 1-0 to Colchester United. Off to Welling United now, and definitely not a dry Blackthorn day for the U's. Robbins puts Welling United ahead on the 3rd minute. But from this corner, things look up when Colchester earn a penalty. Well, as usual, it's Roy McDonough with the penalty kick. Now 9 minutes gone. But on 24 minutes, it's Ransom who hits another goal for Welling. In the second half, a rare mistake from Scott Barrett costs a 3rd goal, and it's Robin's 2nd of the match. And Welling United rub salt in the wound by scoring a 4th goal by White in the 89th minute. An embarrassing defeat for the U's. Colchester United's only crumb of comfort here was it would be the last time they would lose in the GM Vauxhall Conference, and despite the defeat, Colchester United held top spot. They were 8 points clear of Wycombe Wanderers, although the Wanderers did have 4 games in hand. The goal difference would also possibly be a factor, and Colchester United had 10 more than the Wanderers. It was almost as good as having a point. At the wrong end of the table, Runcorn, Barrow, Yeovil all looked in trouble, as did Stafford Rangers, who propped up the table. Well, the previous 3 matches with Altrincham had all ended in draws, but the U's won this one. Steve McGavin, the scorer there, but then that man McKenna equalised for Altrincham. On this occasion, though, the U's would not be denied, and from this corner coming up, McDonough scored the winning goal. And so a good 2-1 win at Altrincham. At home to Gateshead, Paul Roberts scored a rare goal. And then in the second half, Mike Masters, coming on as substitute, made the point safe. Really, the Gateshead keeper should have got this one. So, final score 2-0 to Colchester United, and it was Northwich Victoria who would be at Layer Road next. They put up an excellent fight. Mike Masters needed to be an inch or two taller to get that one, but with 13 minutes left at 0-0, how about this? Unlucky there, and then Sammy McElroy, the former Manchester United player, missed kicking. 7 minutes to go now, and the U saviour is Nicky Smith. Well, excellent strike there for Nicky Smith, but a little sympathy perhaps for Northwich Victoria. They'd played well enough to earn a draw. And the next match at Bath City was Colchester United's only 0-0 draw for the entire 91-92 GM Vauxhall campaign. And what a dreary match it was too. The best chance of the match fell to Mike Masters, but the Bath City keeper was equal to it. At 0-0, the final score. Home to Kidderminster Harriers now, and a good win here for the U's. Well, Stewart opened the scoring for Colchester United. And that second one was an own goal from Benton. It was only fair, he'd also scored an own goal away to Wycombe Wanderers. Time running out now, and Stewart claims his second of the match. Close to the end, he beats Ron Green, who would play for Colchester the following season. Well, another quick look now at the GM Vauxhall Conference table. Kidderminster, with that defeat, were now in trouble themselves, but it was looking like Stafford Rangers and Barrow would be relegated. Colchester United were top of the table, Wycombe Wanderers 2 games in hand, 3 points behind and an inferior goal difference. Redbridge Forest were hanging in there at 3rd, Kettering Town 4th, Farnborough Town 5th. Now, like Cheltenham earlier in the season, Slough Town fought bravely in the first half, but ran out of steam in the second. That first goal for the U's there from Roy McDonough. The weather took a hand shortly after that, and as you can see by the state of the pitch, a heavy downpour made good football almost impossible. Under normal conditions, this would have surely gone in. With the pitch now clearly unplayable, it's Mike Masters on a substitute scoring the second. That was with 9 minutes to go. Still time for 2 more U's goals from Ian Stewart. And the 4th from Mark Kinsella, wrapping things up. So, a good 4-0 win there for the U's. 4 days later, Telford United came to Layer Road. And that was the nearest they came to scoring. It took 2 goals from Roy McDonough to kill off Telford United, and here's the first. The second came close to time and was almost a carbon copy of the first goal. Good work from Ian Stewart there. Well, with 3 matches in 7 days at home, the Layer Road Tills had hardly had time to cool down, and it was the dreaded Merthyr Tydfil this time. They were unlucky here with this shot hitting the crossbar. And they were unlucky again when the referee ruled out this goal. Presumably it was for offside, but it was a tight decision just the same. Enter Nicky Smith for the first goal. Well, he enjoyed that one. Then Merthyr nearly contributed an own goal. But eventually, Colchester United did claim a second goal from Mike Masters. Dying moments of the game now, and Colchester United earn a penalty. Kinsella tripped and no sign of Roy McDonough, so Warren Donald stepped up. He wasn't so fortunate, but a 2-0 win just the same. Off to Boston United now. What could have been a tricky match turned out to be one of the easiest of the season for the U's. McGavin opening the scoring in the first half. Well, and then they say that lightning never strikes twice, but for Boston United's Nuttall it did at this match. Clumsy challenge there. And the referee goes over to have a few words with him. Remember, he'd been sent off at Layer Road, and the Boston United crowd were looking on in anticipation. Perhaps they thought just a yellow card, but the referee had other ideas. And for the second time of the season, Mr. Nuttall was sent off against Colchester United. What could he have been thinking? Nicky Smith's corner here found Roy McDonough for 2-0. Mike Masters beat the Boston United defence here, but he was bundled down in the box. A penalty for the U's. A few caustic remarks there from the Boston keeper to Mike Masters. Perhaps he thought he took a dive. But the big crowd behind that goal watched on as Roy McDonough made the game safe at 3-0. But Mike Masters himself wouldn't be denied. And he'd worked hard for a goal all evening, and he got one shortly before time. An excellent 4-0 away win, with the bonus that Wickham had dropped 2 points at Kettering Town. Well, you started off brightly at the difficult away match at Macclesfield Town, not wanting to repeat last season's defeat, and they got the flying start they needed with an own goal. Kendall, the unlucky player there. And from this corner, Paul Roberts was unlucky not to increase the lead. The U's went 2-0 up, though, when Tony English scored a goal. 23 minutes gone now. Things looking healthier now for the U's, but 4 minutes later, from a corner, Macclesfield Town clawed a goal back. And in a complete turnabout, the start of the second half saw Macclesfield score twice. Well, Colchester did fight back, and on the hour, McDonough made it 3-3 with this header. Thoroughly out of position in the Macclesfield goal. But then just 1 minute later, Lambert put Macclesfield back in front at 3-2. But with just 15 minutes to go, Tony English saved the point and earned the U's a 4-4 draw. The news coming through that Gateshead had been beaten at home to Wycombe Wanderers, but if the U's won their last 2 matches, they should be home and dry. Here's the game against Kettering Town. A big crowd for this one, over 6,000. And it was Roy McDonough who put the U's in front as a result of this penalty. Well, that gentleman not very happy there. He gets a yellow card for his troubles and then has to face the penalty kick from Big Roy. But for once, Roy McDonough's not accurate with his kick, but luckily enough gets a second chance. Second half now, and Mark Quintella and Roy McDonough test the Kettering keeper. Eventually the U's go 2-0 ahead. Bad back pass there. Steve McGavin finds Roy McDonough, 2-0. From Scott Barrett's kick, it's Steve McGavin who puts the U's 3-0 ahead. And a tribute to both Colchester and Kettering Town, over 20,000 people had paid to watch the 4 league matches involving the 2 clubs. Kettering Town, they weren't finished and scored a goal right on time. It was the first goal conceded in the league by Colchester at home since December the 21st. And so the hard part was done. Kettering Town were beaten. The last match of the season would be at home to Barrow. Wycombe Wanderers, they had 2 matches to play. Against Redbridge Forest at Dagenham's ground, and then at home to Witton Albion. Well, we'll have a quick look at the Redbridge Forest and Wycombe Wanderers game. Wycombe obviously needing a hatful of goals to have a chance of catching Colchester United. Otherwise they would have to depend on Barrow doing them a favour.
Ryan battling well now, Casey. Oh, he's gone down. Is that a penalty? It is. Here's Keith Scott. Scores 1-0. Dave Carroll. Got no shortage of support here. This is Ryan. Oh, that's a great cross. Scott! A magnificent goal by Keith Scott. Wycombe's leading scorer. And that surely must rank with any of them. Superb glancing header. Involved there. This is Casey, and that's number 3. A real goal scorer's goal, that one from Tim Casey. And just before half time, a great time to score. So Wycombe about to get us underway at the start of the second half. 3-0 to the good already, and looking for more. That's Scott. He's found Carroll. Scott's continuing his run. This is Carroll. It's got in. And Wycombe are now 4 ahead. It's quite astonishing, really. Home fans here at Victoria Road really don't know what to make of this. Wycombe have really turned on the style. And we're only halfway through. This is Casey. Oh, he's got a real chance here. And that's 5-0. Tim Casey has done it again.
First of all, we had to win the game, and there was always the off chance that if we could win both matches, that maybe a major upset of Barrow going to the last game at Colchester would be able to do something for us. And you have to live with that sort of hope. But realistically, if it was still going to be in our hands, realistically, I say, we had to batter a load of goals in. First and foremost, winning the game was important. We got a goal. We found ourselves 3-0 up at half-time, and for the first time ever, I've said to the lads, listen, let's go for it. What's the point? Let us charge into it. If they get a goal back and make it 3-1, we'll pull forces in again, and then we'll rethink it. But let us charge the game, and let us see if we can go for goals. As it turned out, we played 3 men at the back. We've just got massively forward. We got 4 and 5. We were 47 minutes. I think we were 5-0 up. And the Colchester fans who had come supporting Redbridge Forest were completely and utterly silent. The Colchester players who'd been at the game, I was talking to 1 or 2 after the match, or not after the game, but during the course of the summer, and they were saying that they thought it was going to be a landslide. We needed 8 or 9 at that stage to give ourselves a chance. We had 2 good chances to make it 6. We couldn't do, but we gave everything. And I remember the injured Steve Thompson coming in to say that he felt it was the best non-league performance he had ever seen. We had won 5-0. It wasn't enough. We felt that in their hearts it wasn't, but it was the performance of a lifetime.
And so on to the big one. Colchester United at home to Barrow. And an unbelievable goal coming up from Mike Masters on 8 minutes. What about this? That was a goal deserving of winning a championship, and Mike Masters soon added a second. Second half now, and Roy McDonough here should make it 3. But the keeper saves for Nicky Smith to follow him. Although they were 3-0 down, Barrow kept plugging away and almost snatched a goal here. Tony English saving the day, but eventually a 4th goal came from Roy McDonough, but not there. He just shot wide. but just a minute or two later, and he made amends. Mike Masters on the ball. Finds Roy McDonough. The 7,000 plus crowd knew that the title was coming to Layer Road, and the icing on the cake was a second stunning goal from Mike Masters. So the GM Vauxhall Conference title came to Layer Road for the first and hopefully only time. Needless to say, the crowd spilled onto the pitch and one or two players got caught up in that. There's Mike Masters there, fighting to hang on to his shirt, no doubt. Confirming Colchester United as GM Vauxhall Conference champions, a record 94 points. And in second place were Wycombe Wanderers, also with that record 94 points, but an inferior goal difference. They'd beaten Witton Albion by 4 goals to 0 in the last match of the season, but they would have needed to have scored 10 more to have snatched the title from the U's. Kettering Town were there in third place, and Merthyr Tydfil surprisingly perhaps in fourth, and Farnborough Town, after a bright start, a disappointing fifth. Relegated with Cheltenham Town and Barrow, and coming up were Woking, Bromsgrove Rovers, Stalybridge Celtic. They'd all enjoy the following season in the GM Vauxhall Conference, but Colchester United would not be there to meet them. They had an appointment in the Football League the following August. Well, now it's time to turn our attention to the FA Trophy for the season 91-92, and the U's after an extraordinary double. Kingstonian were the first opponents, and the U's were soon behind to a goal from Cherry. I think Kingstonian could have made it 2 here. But all was well a few moments later when Steve Resterick scored an equaliser. But unbelievably, just 1 minute later, and Tutt regains the lead for the visitors. And in the second half, Kingstonian looked the stronger side, unlucky here. And here. And with 10 minutes to go, this shot was inches wide. At 3-1, the U's would have been dead and buried. But Scott Barrett and Tony English had other ideas. Deep into injury time now, nearly 5 minutes of it. The ball hoisted away there for a throw-in. Nicky Smith takes it quickly. Scott Barrett has now come up in the opposing penalty area to assist. There he is. And it's his header that finds Tony English for an equaliser. Scott Barrett returning victoriously to his goal. And there will be no second chance for Kingstonian in the replay. Steve McGavin here nearly giving the U's the lead. Kingstonian defence holding out well, and they should really have taken the lead here. A free header, but it goes wide. Well, from this throw-in, it's Nicky Smith on 39 minutes who eventually gives the U's the lead. It's the first time in the tie that Colchester have a lead, but in the second half they concede a penalty And Paul Roberts, the judge to have handballed. And Cherry steps up to take this penalty. And it's 1-1. But then the U's regain the lead. And after that Gary Bennett goal, a fine individual goal from Steve McGavin. Outsmarts the Kingstonian defender and a second one, and then beats the keeper. At 3-1, the U's looking a little safer now, but another handball and another foul by Paul Roberts. Not happy with that one, is he? Cherry's opportunity to put the K's back in the match. But there's no further scoring, and Colchester United are through to a horrifying away trip to none other than Merthyr Tydfil. It's Paul Roberts who nearly gives them the lead as well with this shot, nearly an own goal. And this free kick sees a fine save from Scott Barrett. And as in their previous two meetings, the U's didn't score, but at least they didn't concede one either, although Scott Barrett on an excursion there nearly concedes a goal. Back off the crossbar, but the U's survive for a replay. And this replay now, just 5 minutes to go before there's extra time. Nicky Smith picks up the ball here, just wide there. Less than 4 minutes now, and it's player manager Roy McDonough who comes to the rescue. He claims the game's only goal and puts the U's into the third round for a home match against Morecambe from the HFS Loans League. It was Ian Stewart who gave the U's a 12th minute lead against Morecambe in the third round. But then Morecambe, who played belying their HFS status, equalised through Kane. Good shot from an acute angle. Soon after, Ian Stewart claimed his second goal of the match, a glancing header doing just enough. And in the 67th minute, the U's gained a rather fortuitous penalty. Mike Masters is sure it's for hands. And perhaps justice was done here. Roy McDonough's shot scooped over the stand, but it was just a few minutes later. This excellent 9-man move ends with Steve McGavin scoring a beauty. Look at this, football at its best. Well, Morecambe were one of the most sporting teams to have played at Layer Road. One last chance there to make it 4-1. They'd even presented Colchester United with a silver tray before the match. and it was a pleasure to have watched them and to have had them at Layer Road. In the fourth round, Telford United were the next visitors to Layer Road, and they were surprisingly easily overcome. Lynn went the first goal from Steve McGavin. This was Telford's only real moment. It brought a superb save out of Scott Barrett. And after that, Telford sank without a trace. Mark Kinsella claiming the second goal there, and it looked like he enjoyed it. And from this free kick, the U's go 3 ahead. Gary Bennett there at the scorer, a well-placed header. Time for one more goal, a long build-up to this one. It begins with Roy McDonough slipping over there, but he makes amends, and eventually Nicky Smith is found, and he scores, making it look simple. Used now in the semi-final, and it's those tricky opponents, Macclesfield Town. A two-legged affair, the first one at Layer Road. In fortuitous pass there from the referee, Mr. Ward. But they all count. Now determined Tony English breaks through to make it 2. Just 25 minutes go. The White Masters' goal against Barrow would have been a contender for goal of the season, but how about this for miss of the season? Oops. Well, at 2-1, Macclesfield would have been happy with that scoreline, but they shortly afterwards concede a penalty. And Roy McDonough scores from the spot to give the U's a healthy first leg lead. The second leg now at Moss Rose, and Macclesfield came out all-out attack. An excellent save there from Scott Barrett, but the home side eventually go 1-0 ahead. Still plenty of time for 2 more goals, but they're killed off here by Jason Cook, a superb shot. Well, that just about killed off Macclesfield Town. They were out of the tournament. They'd been beaten by the U's 4-1 on aggregate, and so to Wembley.
It's there, McDonough heads it on! And Colchester have taken the lead! This is Kinsella. That's a great ball across! 2-0! He's fine, Carl Thomas. Kotov again. Oh, Lukovic! What a goal! Now there's Masters. Great chance here! That does it! Steve McGavin. The presented by an American, originally conceived for a competition involving England, Canada and America of football. For the first time presented by an American, for the first time. It belongs to Colchester United.
And so, Colchester United GM Vauxhall Conference champions and FA Trophy winners for season 91 to 92. No longer did the drop into the GM Conference from the Football League look a disaster, but more a blessing. It had given the club something that they hadn't been used to, and that something was success. Confirming the road to Wembley there, the most difficult one of course, that first one at home to Kingstonian. They put up one hell of a fight, but were beaten in the replay, as were Merthyr Tydfil. In the third round it was the HFS Loans side Morecambe. In the quarter-final, Telford United were easily overcome. And in the semi-final, a 4-1 win over 2 legs against Macclesfield Town, and then that Wembley showdown with Witton Albion. The following season, back in the Football League, Roy McDonough seen here firing up his players for the last but one match. The U's need to win both to have a chance of going into the playoffs. There's only a small crowd at Darlington. Match of no significance to them. One or two faces in the crowd that's well known. Mike Masters, Gary Bennett and Sean Elliott there. No doubt come along to cheer on the U's. But it was not to be, and Darlington scored the only goal of the game and ended U's chance. And in the following season, Colchester would go back to Darlington and concede 7 goals. But it was this goal in the FA Cup against non-league Sutton United that did the damage. Ollie Morra there seen celebrating after scoring the winning goal. And the chance around Lower Road for Sutton United and not Colchester United. It was all too much for the board of directors at Lower Road. And despite 2 seasons earlier winning the conference and the FA Trophy, Roy McDonough's time as manager was up and he was promptly sacked.
Lying awake, I feel you beside me. Your body comforts my soul. The touch of your